Shall we do revision of these clauses? Yes. Right now, just now we covered this. Part number 1, schedule number 2. Part number 1, schedule number 2. Clause number 1. A CA in practice is treated as guilty of professional misconduct if he is disclosing information belonging to the client to others without permission of the client, or when there is no requirement under, or when there is a requirement under law, you can disclose. Then clause number 2. A CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he reports or certifies financial statements that are not examined by him or his partner or his firm. Clause number 3. A CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he signs an earnings estimate. However, this guilty will not apply if at all sources of information is given, assumptions used is given, and the fact that he has not vouched the accuracy of the information, then he is not treated as guilty. Clause number 4. A CA's practice is prohibited to sign, report financial statements of a business or entity where himself or his partner or his firm having substantial interest. If at all relative is having, then council guidelines says it is guilty. Then clause number 5. A material fact is not disclosed in the financials and you know that and you failed to report it. You are treated as guilty. A material misstatement is there in the financial statements and you know that you failed to report it. Guilty under clause number 6. You failed to exercise skill, care, diligence. You failed to exercise due diligence or grossly negligent. Clause number 7. You failed to. Clause number 8. Sufficient appropriate evidence is not obtained and you reported on the financials without obtaining evidence. You are treated as guilty. Clause number 9. Gap. If CA in practice deemed to be guilty if at all he fails to comply with gap while rendering the services. Yes or no? Clause number 10. Any money received by CA in practice from the client should be kept in the separate bank account. Failure to do so is treated as guilty of professional misconduct. However, you need not keep in separate bank account if advance is received for so and so and remuneration, or if the amount is to be spent in reasonable period. Further, a liquidator, if a CA is acting as a liquidator, trustee, receiver, he must always keep the amount in separate bank account. Clear? Then schedule 2. Schedule 2 has 4 clauses. Sorry, schedule 2 part 2 has 4 clauses. Clause number 1. Yes, no, that is linked with the original one. So clause number 1, not complying with the act, not complying with the regulations made there under. Getting it? Suppose if you are not complying with the requirements of the ICA, not complying with the requirements of the ICA committees, disciplinary directorate, quality board, requirements you are not complying. Schedule 1. Requirements not complied can be for members in practice or may not be for not in practice, which means part number 3. Inside that clause number 2. Clause number 2 is dealing with what? Fails to give the information, fails to comply with their requirements. You are violating act itself. Then schedule 2 offense, clause number 1. Then clause number 2, part number 2, schedule number 1. Employee breaching confidentiality. A CA who is a member in service, disclosing information pertaining to employer to third parties without the consent of the employer. Clause number 3. False information to the institute. Yes or no? Institute, committees, disciplinary committee, disciplinary directorate, all that. False information to others for getting the work. Then that is clause number 3 in part number 3 in schedule number 1, which is the last clause there. And already now in this clause number clause number 4, already just now we discussed embezzlement and theft, over. Now third part in the schedule 2. What is the third part in schedule 2? Imprisonment for a period exceeding 6 months. Imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months. In both the cases, first clause only. Yes or no? Here it is part 4 of the schedule 1. Whereas in schedule 1, part 4, there is another clause. What is it? He is bringing disrepute. In the opinion of the council, if a member in practice is bringing disrepute to the profession, then the council punish him by treating him as guilty of other misconduct. Then part 4 is over, part 3 is over. Part 2, employee is not permitted to share profits. Employee is not permitted to accept kickbacks. Now 12 clauses in part number 1. Clause number 1, a CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he agrees to, if at all he is allowing another person to practice in his name, that member should be, if at all you are allowing, that member should be member of the institute and a partner of the firm, then no guilty. Clause number 2. A CA is treated as guilty of misconduct if at all he is allowing or agree to pay to a non-member any share of profits. then you are treated as guilty. However, you can share it to non-member, you can share it to the following: another CA in practice, another member of the institute, a partner of the firm, retired partner, legal representative of deceased partner, member of recognized professional body, member having recognized qualification. Correct? Then clause number 3, a CA in practice is is prohibited to accept any share of profit from a non-member. However, from the following members, exceptions, same exceptions, you can accept. Now, clause number 4, you are prohibited to form partnership with a non-member. You can only form partnership with the following members: another CA in practice, or a member of the institute who are not in practice, a member of the recognized professional body, member having recognized qualification, or another member of the institute which is treated as equivalent to ICAI. Then clause number 12, a CA is treated as guilty of professional misconduct if he allows another person to sign on his behalf. Signing can be done only by firm partner. Signing can only be done by CA with the COP. Only engagement partner can sign, others cannot sign. But routine correspondence can be signed by anybody. Clause number 10, a CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if they are accepting fees as a percentage of profit or contingency upon findings. Exceptions, main important exceptions, the last one, you can accept fees as a percentage for insolvency professional service, to non-assurance service, to a non-audit client. You can tax. Income tax representation case, May 24 attempt, I told you. Then clause number 9, a CA is treated as guilty of professional misconduct if at all he is accepting audit of a company without verifying compliance with 139, 140, 141, 142. Correct? Then clause number 8, a CA in practice is treated as guilty of professional misconduct if at all he is accepting the audit, if at all he is accepting audit which is held by previous auditor without communicating with him. Inside that mode of communication we saw, inside that we have seen fees not paid, what has to be done. We have seen thus communication must from the retiring auditor. Then we have seen why communication is required, professional courtesy, all that, to know the reasons, yes or no. Then clause number 5, 6, 7 is pending. Clause number 5, a CA is prohibited to secure professional business other than an employee, other than partner, by any mean other than not open to CA. What are the means not open to CA? Clause number 6, clause number 7 they deal with. Clause number 6, a CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he advertises through a circular, personal communication, advertisement, or any other mean, or interview or any other mean. Inside that some issues we have seen, tenders and all we have seen, yes or no, tender document, website guidelines, educational videos, there are few important points. Then clause number 7, a CA in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if at all he is securing professional business through other than partner, through advertisement of professional attainments, or using designation in addition to chartered accountancy. Then in these cases you are treated as guilty of professional misconduct. Over. Yes or no?